When the Spanish arrived in Peru, they did not come seeking peace or trade. They came with swords in hand and gold in their eyes. The Inca Empire, the most advanced civilization in the Americas, was already weakened by internal conflict. A brutal civil war between brothers Atahualpa and Huáscar had left the empire divided and vulnerable. Into this fragile moment walked Francisco Pizarro and his conquistadors, a few hundred men armed with steel, horses, and deadly intent. They captured Atahualpa, the Sapa Inca, and despite receiving a ransom room filled to the ceiling with gold and silver, they executed him anyway. With the empire's head cut off, the Spanish sought a way to control the Inca people, so they installed a new puppet emperor. That puppet was Manco Inca Yupanqui. But they had gravely underestimated the spirit of the man they placed on the throne. Born around 1516, Manco Inca was one of the many sons of Huayna Capac, the powerful Inca ruler who had expanded the empire to its greatest size. Manco had royal blood in his veins and was raised in the traditions of the high Andes. He was intelligent, observant, and carried himself with the quiet dignity expected of Inca nobility. But his rise to prominence came not through conquest or ceremony, but through colonization. After Atahualpa's death and the disarray that followed, the Spanish needed a familiar Inca face to legitimize their rule. They chose Manco, perhaps believing him to be pliable or naive. They crowned him Sapa Inca in 1533, draped him in the royal fringe, and set him up in Cusco as a figurehead. But what they offered in title, they denied in power. Manco Inca quickly realized that he was a prisoner in his own palace. The Spanish mocked him, beat him, and treated him as a puppet to parade around for appearances. His advisors were executed, his decisions ignored. The Pizarro brothers and their allies imposed Spanish rule over every aspect of daily life in Cusco, reducing the once mighty Inca capital to a base of colonial operations. But Manco Inca was no fool. He watched, he listened, and he waited. Beneath the surface of his obedience burned the slow, steady flame of resistance. In 1536, he made his move. Under the pretense of performing religious ceremonies, Manco requested permission to leave Cusco. Once outside the city, he escaped Spanish control and fled to the countryside. There, he began assembling a massive army. Tens of thousands of Inca warriors answered his call. Some estimates claim over 100,000 men took up arms. What followed was the Great Siege of Cusco, a campaign so intense that it nearly succeeded in driving the Spanish out entirely. Manco's forces surrounded the city, cutting off supplies and launching wave after wave of attack. The highland terrain gave his warriors a natural advantage. They used slings, spears, and fire, turning the mountains into weapons. The Spanish, though equipped with muskets and steel, were vastly outnumbered and caught off guard. One of the boldest moments of the siege was the assault on Sacsayhuaman, the towering fortress overlooking Cusco. Manco's warriors stormed the walls, capturing the stronghold and using it as a base to rain down attacks on the city below. For 10 months, the siege raged. The Spanish suffered immense losses, but despite their desperation, they held on. Reinforcements eventually arrived, and the tide turned. Manco Inca was forced to withdraw, but he did not surrender. He had tested the Spanish and proved they were not invincible. Instead of retreating into obscurity, Manco established a new base of operations deep in the jungles of Vilcabamba, a region nearly inaccessible to outsiders. There, he founded the Neo-Inca State, a kingdom in exile still loyal to the old ways. In Vilcabamba, the Inca calendar was followed, the sun god Inti was worshipped, and Quechua was spoken. Manco Inca ruled not as a puppet, but as a true king. His court functioned as a continuation of the Inca Empire, maintaining traditions, ceremonies, and the administrative structure of a government in hiding. From Vilcabamba, Manco launched a series of guerrilla campaigns against the Spanish. He targeted colonial outposts, disrupted trade routes, and inspired uprisings among other indigenous communities. The terrain was his ally. Dense jungle, high peaks, and narrow passes made it difficult for Spanish forces to penetrate his stronghold. Manco's fighters would strike and disappear, melting into the mountains like ghosts. This new style of warfare confused and frustrated the conquistadors, who were used to traditional battles and clear victory conditions. While Manco fought with weapons, he also waged a war of cultural preservation. He ensured that Inca religion, education, and ritual continued in Vilcabamba. He trained the next generation of leaders, including his sons, to carry on the resistance. Sairi Tupac, Titu Cusi Yupanqui, and Tupac Amaru I would each take the throne after him, maintaining the Neo-Inca State for nearly 4 decades. Manco knew that even if the Spanish held the cities, They had not yet crushed the soul of the Andes. As long as his people remembered who they were, the empire was not lost. But Manco's life was not without tragedy. In 1544, he was assassinated by a group of Spanish defectors who had taken refuge in Vilcabamba. Manco had offered them sanctuary, perhaps hoping to turn enemies into allies. Instead, they repaid his kindness with betrayal. They stabbed him to death in the very kingdom he had built from the ashes. Yet even in death, Manco Inca's resistance lived on. His sons continued the struggle. His name became legend. The Spanish eventually destroyed the Neo-Inca State in 1572, capturing and executing the last Inca ruler, Tupac Amaru I. But the flame that Manco lit did not go out. Over 2 centuries later, another descendant of the Inca nobility would rise, Tupac Amaru II. He led a massive indigenous rebellion against Spanish rule in 1780, invoking the memory of his ancestors and the legacy of resistance that Manco had begun. Though that rebellion was also crushed, it shook the foundations of colonial power and inspired future revolutions across Latin America. Manco Inca Yupanqui was more than a warrior. He was a strategist, a statesman, a cultural guardian, and a symbol of indigenous defiance. He turned captivity into revolt, defeat into persistence, and exile into rebirth. He demonstrated that sovereignty is not just about land, but about identity. That a people can be displaced, but not erased. That memory, language, and spirit can outlive swords and empires. He could have lived quietly under Spanish rule, accepting the crown they offered and the humiliation that came with it. Instead, he chose rebellion. He chose the mountains. He chose to preserve a civilization rather than let it be buried under colonial lies. The Neo-Inca State was not merely a refuge, it was a declaration. A bold reminder that the Inca world had not been extinguished, it had simply retreated to regroup. Today, Manco Inca's legacy echoes through the highlands of Peru. His story is told in villages, his name remembered in stone carvings and oral tradition. He is honored not for the throne he sat on, but for the stand he took. A stand against betrayal. A stand for dignity. A stand that proved that even when empires fall, the soul of a people can rise again. Remember his name, Manco Inca Yupanqui, the emperor who defied the conquistadors, the architect of resistance, the shadow that haunted colonial ambition, and the fire that kept the Andes burning.